It is said that the legendary Sword of Cain is more of a metaphysical concept than it is an actual sword. It represents the lust for battle and blood. It has no fixed shape. It morphs into a different weapon depending on who sees it. It constantly lusts for blood. It corrupts everything around it, and it whispers promises of unimaginable power to the ones that get too close to it and may feel its call.
The High Elf ended lives with every swing of that terrible weapon he held. The blade was made of a fire that was not from this world, and it constantly dripped blood from the tip. The Widowmaker killed us swiftly. We fought with fury, trying to draw the attention of our gods. But it wasn't enough. Steel-plated Chaos Warriors died easily. Their armor was no protection against the otherworldly blade that slashed through shields, armor plate, flesh, and bone. Hundreds of our warriors were victims to that mighty sword. It seemed on that day that the one who wielded the Sword of Cain was capable of even slaying the gods.
If you want to get your legendary title without having to feel the wrath of Cain, you will be more than happy to hear about today's video sponsor. Established Titles is a fun way to preserve the natural woodlands of Scotland, helping global reforestation efforts, and also makes for a unique gift. Their title packs let you buy at least 1 square foot of dedicated land, with a unique plot number on a private estate in Edelston, Scotland, and an official certificate with a crest. All the available title packs are based on the historic Scottish land ownership custom, where you can declare yourself as a lord or lady, which are the Scottish terms for a landowner. You could officially change your name to Lord or Lady, and get it on your credit card, plane tickets, or elsewhere. You can even get it on your dating profiles. Not only that, but by purchasing your own plot of land, Established Titles plants a tree with every order through partnerships with One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future charities. Established Titles has told us that the first 200 people purchasing a title pack using our link will effectively be next to our plot. Depending on how many of you want to become a lord or a lady, we can build our own Book of Choyer kingdom. Established Titles is actually running a massive Black Friday sale right now. Plus, you can use our code Choyer to get an additional 10% off. Go to establishedtitles.com/Choyer to get your gifts now and to help support the channel. Search through every armory, every tome, every inventory. You will not find a weapon more powerful than it. Not Gal Moraz, mighty hammer of Sigmar Heldenhammer. Not the twin axes of the ancestor god Grimnir. The Widowmaker, the world-ender blade. The Sword of Cain. 'Tis a slayer that can kill all. And neither us nor the gods are safe from it. Known as the Widowmaker, the God Slayer, the Doom of Worlds, Spear of Vengeance, Death Shard, Ice Fang, and Heaven Blight, among many other names. The sword of Cain is perpetually dripping blood, and it is blacker than the night sky, glowing eternally with red, crimson runes. Mythology says that it was forged by Vol, the elven god of smithing, to be used by the elven god of war, Cain. And during its forging, it was heated by the fiery breath of Draupnir, the father of dragons, binding the fate of all dragons that came after to the fate of the elves. The sword of Cain is not to be wielded by mortal hands, for it was made by gods, and so powerful it is that it has the capabilities of killing such divine beings. The magical sword of Cain has no permanent form. It has appeared as a lance to Calidor the Conqueror, a scepter to Malekith, and a longsword to Narration the Defender, and later to his descendant, Tyrion. It is known that the weapon draws powerful elven warriors to it, begging to be wielded and promising great powers, potential beyond imagination. Its corrupting whispers also extend to the people near the one wielding it. To use the Widowmaker is to invite Cain himself into one's heart, replacing kindness with apathy, love with hatred, and mercy with cold-blooded ruthlessness. In the altar of Cain it sits, melded into the shrine to the god of murder. The altar itself is in the center of the Blighted Isle in northern Ulthuan. The island is currently under High Elf control. They have patrols and watchtowers to defend against the Dark Elf raids that seek to steal the powerful blade and reclaim the lands for themselves. The Dark Elves have gone to great lengths in their efforts to acquire the Godslayer, but their cousins deny them their prize, for they know that this weapon is not to be wielded lightly. And they also know that to wield the sword means to doom oneself to its corrupting power. The well-protected altar sits on a vast plain over which many battles have been fought. The bodies of the dead lie unburied, so the plain is covered in the bones and skulls of elves and beasts. During the terrible event that is now known as the First Coming of Chaos, the blade was first used by Narration the Defender, who pulled the sword from the shrine in deep grief for the loss of his wife, Astariel, to the greater demon of Slaanesh, Nakari. By taking the sword and claiming the power of Cain, his line was forever cursed by the sword, a heavy price to pay for an action that would have consequences for generations to come. Some would argue, however, that due to the dire circumstances at the time, the Phoenix King's actions were justified. The ground shook and rock crumbled as Anarian's fist closed upon the hilt. He pulled the sword free from its stone prison and held it aloft. Blood seeped from the runes etched into the blade and poured in thick rivulets across his hand and down his arm, trailing crimson across his armor. Godslayer, Widowmaker, Doom of worlds, Spear of vengeance, Death Shard, Icefang, and Heaven Blight. By many names it was called, by mortal, demons, and gods. But one name alone it truly held. Sword of Cain, the Lord of Murder. Now, it was the Sword of Anarian. Anarian was already chosen by Asuryan to be the Phoenix King, and by himself he was a truly remarkable warrior. But with the sword, he was a vengeful god in mortal form, and with it he slew creatures from the warp by the thousands. Wherever Anarian went, victory followed, and the terrible blade was drenched in the blood of the enemies of Ulthuan. At the greatest point in that terrible conflict, Anarian killed 4 greater demons from all of the 4 chaos gods. But alas, he was also mortally wounded in the process. This is a feat of legendary importance, and it was achieved because Anarian had the help of his mighty dragon, and he wielded the Widowmaker. With his last mighty breath, he thrust the sword back into the altar of Cain, where it still sits, murmuring to all who come near, warrior or not, seeking to be wielded once more, so it can unleash violence and spill blood. In truth, the modern-day line of Anarian the Defender is very well represented by the brothers Tyrion and Teclis. Both are called to the sword regularly, especially Tyrion. When a later Phoenix King, Calidor the Conqueror, was called to it, the blade failed to seduce the mighty elf, who bravely resisted its temptation. There is also speculation that the Phoenix King Tethlis may have attempted to draw the sword, and maybe even managed to touch it. But he was slain by his own bodyguard. Others say he met his end at the point of a dark elven assassin's blade, so it is unclear. What Tethlis saw as the Sword of Cain, and what promises it whispered to him, is also still unknown. That godly weapon is so powerful that it is said that if it is ever wielded again, it would change the world forever.
Dark. the elves, it is growing darker. Long nights and final extinction approach. Together we can save them. Together we can reforge their broken empire and reclaim their lost lands. Nothing can stand against us. Not men. Not demons. Not dwarves. Not your dark kindred. Nagaroth will fall. The Empire will fall. The kingdom of the dwarves will fall. The world will be ours. It is our destiny. You will be the last of the great elven heroes, and your name will live forever.
Elves of Alfwan, to me! The scum approach. They think to cage us in. But is the lion trapped when cornered by the rat? Do warriors squirm when confronted by weaklings? No is the answer. Gird your souls. Let them come.
On this channel, we are putting together narrative Total War cinematic battles and Warhammer lore videos. A special thank you goes to our Patreon supporters who help us in the making of more content. You can also join Patreon and earn extra perks while supporting the videos to come. Find the link in the description below. Make sure to subscribe, and thank you for watching. See you on the next one.